What is up, guys? Londrick here, and now I'm back with Wrestling in Year 2000 Q&A. So this is, I think, the fourth installment of this series now, and this time, wow, what a response I got. I mean, I have a ton of questions here to get through, so this video is going to be a long one, boys and girls, so make yourself a snack, make yourself a drink or whatever. And if you're going to sit and watch the whole thing, that'll be awesome. But of course, you can watch it in parts if you want. But yeah, this is definitely going to be a long one, I imagine. Wouldn't be surprised if it went more than 2 hours. So just to say that one. And yeah, great response to this one. And I've kind of got the message that this is the era you guys want me to talk about. I mean, compared to the 1992 one where I didn't get that many responses at all. So from now on, I'm probably going to pick this time period of like late 90s, early 2000s to do. I've done 97, I've done 02, 92. So next one will probably be 2001, I would imagine. But I've got another idea for the next Q&A, which you can stay tuned for. So yeah, let's just get the questions really. So first set of questions come from Hitman Fan 683. Best/worst WWE, WCW pay-per-view, quick review of them. Well, I've reviewed them on my channel, so all these pay-per-views are available on the channel, so I don't really see the need to do a quick review. But best WWE pay-per-view, and this has been asked a few times, but Backlash 2000, fucking awesome pay-per-view that was, one of my favourite ever pay-per-views. Then worst WWE pay-per-view, King of the Ring 2000, that just wasn't very good. Had a couple of good matches on there, but mostly mediocre to bad stuff. And then WCW, and yes, they are not bad WCW pay-per-view. So I'll say the best WCW pay-per-view, the shining light of a big pile of shit, was Fall Brawl 2000. That was actually a pretty good show. Then worst. Now this is a hard one because holy fucking shit the bed. There was some absolute piece of shit that year, wasn't he? But if I have to go out on a limb and say what is the worst, I will say Uncensored 2000. I mean, just all kinds of bad. The reviews on the channel somewhere if you want to go and look and see the thoughts and all that. But yeah, it was fucking awful, really, wasn't it? Now, what do you think Taker and Austin would have done if they weren't out injured? So Taker was only out till May, wasn't he? So I would imagine he'd have stayed in the main event mix. He'd have probably been one of the main people in the Royal Rumble 2000. I could see him feuding with the Big Show, going off the tag team they had in 1999. That could have broke up in late 99, early 2000. And maybe WrestleMania 2000 you could see Undertaker versus the Big Show, maybe. That would have been alright, I suppose. And it's interesting if he hadn't taken that time off, how he would have transitioned to the American Badass. Because it was an easier transition. It wasn't when he was off screen, he just came back as a new character. So would he have still gotten out of the Ministry of Darkness, evil Undertaker phase, and then went to the American Badass phase? Who knows? And then for Austin, you got to think he'd be right at the top of the game. Probably would have even main evented WrestleMania 2000 for that matter. I mean, I could easily have seen them doing the Stone Cold Rock WrestleMania 17 match just a year earlier. Would Austin have turned heel? Not sure. I would say probably not, but it's possible. I mean, so he would have obviously probably would have carried on his feud with Triple H as well. You would have seen more Austin Triple H pay-per-view matches. Stone Cold Rock at WrestleMania. Then after that, I'm not sure. Again, not too sure. I'm not completely sure what he would have done like after WrestleMania, the Backlash 2000, all that. I'm guessing some point we may have even got Austin Rock again, Backlash or Judgment Day maybe. Maybe would have feuded with someone like a Benoit or a Kurt Angle or somebody like that. Maybe feuded with Kane or something like that. But where? And then we got. Would you consider WCW 2000 worse than WCW Summer 2017? I think you meant to say. I think you meant to say WWE Summer 2017. But yes, it was. WCW 2000 was horrible. I mean, people complain about how shit WWE is now, and yeah, I mean, fuck me, WWE is shit now. But wow, nowhere near as bad as WCW in 2000. I mean, blows my mind that wrestling could be as bad as WCW was in 2000. It was awful. It was quite literally the worst wrestling ever. I mean, worse than WWF in 1995. Worse than WWE in the last few years. I mean, worse than, I don't know, WCW in the Jim Herd days. It was awful. It was absolute worse than TNA at its absolute worst. I mean, so there's been a lot of bad wrestling over the last 25 plus years, but none of it compares to WCW 2000. I mean, might get more in depth into it later on, but there's just so much bad shit that year. I mean, horrible storylines, stupid turns, horrible gimmicks, shitty pay-per-views, the lot, it's all there. And then we got, how would you improve WCW in 2000? Now that's a big question, really. I mean, that's like a really, really hard question, because I feel if you start WCW in 2000 and you start if you start your job in the start of 2000, it's probably not going to turn round to the end of the year. I mean, I feel like it's a really long process. Obviously, I think WCW by the start of 2000 was already on the downslide, and it's really, really hard to reverse that trend. So you've got to come up with like a 2 or 3 year plan and think, if I make the right moves now, then maybe business will be better in 2002 or 2003. And it's easy for us fans to say how we would have made WCW better, but the company was already losing money. That was going to be hard to change. The main wrestlers were on massive contracts, so you got that problem. Then you got guys with creative control saying, fuck you, I'm not doing this, fuck you, I'm not doing that. Then of course you got all the injuries to deal with, but just little few, I would say basically, because you can't really say, oh, I wouldn't get rid of all the 40 plus year olds. That'd be stupid, but you've got to, it would have been better to try and transition them away to more of a part-time special attraction roles. So the likes of Hogan, Flair, Sting, Nash and all that, obviously don't get rid of them, because that'd be stupid really, because obviously they're quite big stars, and of course you're paying them a shitload of money, which you can't really. They're on guaranteed contracts that would have cost a fucking bomb to get rid of them all. So I would say kind of like how WWE uses the part-timers now. So transition Hogan to having 3 or 4 matches a year. Keep Flair out of the ring more. Make Sting more of a special attraction. And when they do come back, make them work with a younger guy. I mean, I think they kind of had the right idea when they did the New Blood Millionaires feud, but it just wasn't executed well. So try and do that feud right. Obviously, the veterans should be the heels, the young guys should be the baby faces. Just go back to basics, really. I mean, get rid of all the stupid gimmicks like Mike Awesome's 70s guy and all the crappy storylines. I mean, I would say kind of make the moves that WCW was making for the last few months of its existence. I mean, it's sad really. WCW started improving at the end of 2000 to 2001, but it was kind of too late. I mean, doing stuff like booking Scott Steiner and Booker T on top, bringing young guys like the Natural Born Thrillers in and stuff like that, pushing people like Lance Storm and stuff like that. So I would say start making those moves early on, and hoping by the end of 2000 into 2001 things are looking a little bit better. Obviously start showing the titles a bit more respect. I mean, that's it, one of the biggest. Just hang on, just ignore that. Got a message, right? Sorry. Yeah. So obviously there was like a shitload of title changes that year in WCW. even the world title, I think I had like over 20 title changes that year. So show a bit more respect for the titles. I mean, go back to longer title reigns, stuff like that. Just little things like that will benefit in the long run. I mean, have a clear plan, stick to it. Don't just push this guy one week and then throw him out the next week, and don't just start suddenly pushing guys for no reason. So go back to basics, basically. Obviously, I think turning WCW around at that point was a very difficult job for anyone to do, let alone a fantasy booker. So yeah, I hope that answered it. And then how would Lance Storm have done in WWF in 2000? Probably like European champion, probably, I would say. Good enough for people like Eddie Guerrero, Al Snow, Perry Saturn. Possibly getting like people like Val, or like a Eddie Guerrero, Val Venus, Perry Saturn kind of level. Possibly could have had a feud with someone like a Benoit or a Jericho, but let's be honest, as Lance Storm came to WWF in 2000, he wasn't going to go in to be a top guy or anything like that. So I would say a good mid-card, because he was a really good worker and at least cut a decent promo. I know the whole, if I can be serious for a minute, boring character, but that was kind of the point, if you know. I mean, it's kind of deliberately boring, if that makes sense. So it kind of worked. And then next set of questions, Mr. Lucid LJ. With the absence of Stone Cold in 2000, would he been there have hurt the progress of the likes of Kurt Angle, Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit? Yeah, I think that's a completely fair statement to make. I mean, there's another question about this, but I'll talk about it now. Stone Cold being gone was kind of a blessing in disguise for WWE. I mean, let's face it, Austin had been running hard at the top for like 3 years at that point. 97, 98, 99. So it kind of benefited the company in a way to get a rest from Austin for a year. I mean, Austin had done so much, and then with him gone, The Rock really stepped up into being a top guy. Triple H obviously became a main event guy, and then there was opportunities for the likes of Benoit and Jericho and Kurt Angle, those three that you mentioned specifically, but others as well, such as Rikishi really became a household name in 2000. Well, Austin, I mean, you'd think if Austin hadn't been injured, WWF would have just continued pushing Austin as the guy. I mean, guy was printing money, he was drawing so much money, so you'd think Vince wouldn't have risked that by dropping him down the card. So yeah, so with him being gone, like you said, which I think you're right in what you're saying, the opportunities were there for other guys to step up and make money. So it would have been very interesting if Austin was around, how different things could have been. Then we got, who's your MVP for 2000 for the WWF? Got to be Triple H, surely. I mean, best in-ring performer, I would say definitely. I mean, look at his matches that year, the classics with Cactus Jack, and great matches with The Rock at Backlash, awesome Iron Man match with The Rock at Judgment Day, fantastic Last Man Standing match with Chris Jericho at Fully Loaded, good matches with Kurt Angle, awesome match with Chris Benoit, was the undisputed top heel of the company, and great promos. I would say The Rock was a top draw, he was a top guy, but I would say as a all-round performer, Triple H was the better of the two in the year 2000. I mean, Triple H's 2000 really, you could put up there with most best years. I mean, thinking like Ric Flair 89, Bret Hart 94, Shawn Michaels 96, AJ Styles 2016. He's on that sort of level in my opinion. Triple H was obviously for me the best wrestler in the world in the year 2000. I mean, you look at the top list of best matches that people have done. How many of those matches come from that year? I mean, yeah. Then we got last question. What talents from WCW and WCW could WF have acquired at the time before they both went under in 2001 to make an impact on the roster? So let's just fantasy book this and assume, let's just ignore the fact of contracts and all that and say we can pick any guys to come in. Now, for the interest of doing this, I'm only going to pick 5. Because if I picked like all the people I'd want to pick, I'd be rabbiting on this question for about half an hour. So, from ECW, the only really guy I really want to pick to come in is Rob Van Dam. I mean, by 2000, ECW's best guys had gone. I mean, Taz and the Dudleys had gone in 1999. There's really only RVD left as a major star in the company for me. I mean, people like Rhino and that were coming up, but... So I think you bring RVD in a year earlier, I think he would have made a similar impact to the one he made in 2001. I think like his style would have got over and all that, and he would have done really well for himself. He'd have been on the Benoit Jericho level, like upper mid card. You could occasionally put him in the main event and that sort of thing. So I think RVD would have done very well. So when I want to do 4 draft picks from WCW, like I say, this is fantasy, so all the contracts and shit are all out the window, so I can pick whoever I want. And I've said the obvious one. I mean, it's obviously got to be Goldberg. I mean, that's a no-brainer, right? WCW's top star. I think the guy everybody wanted to see in the WWF at the time. I mean, you bring him in and you can instantly draw money with him. You put him in there. Obviously, Austin was injured, but we'll say later on in 2000. But before that, you do Goldberg and Rock, you do a load of money. You do Goldberg Triple H, you do a load of money. And then when Taker comes back, you do Goldberg and Undertaker. And then, of course, the big one, Goldberg versus Austin. So you pretty much you could bring Goldberg in and just make money for a year doing dream matches that everyone wants to see. And obviously Goldberg, the monster, sort of guy Vince McMahon likes. So that'd be perfect. And then obviously number 2, you got to go with WCW icon Sting. I mean, Sting coming in the WWE. If Sting had came in the WWE at anything remotely his prime, that would have been huge. I know he was in 2014, 2015, but he's in his mid-50s by that point, so the impact it had was limited. So if he came in this year, you could come in right in an main event spot, like the Triple H, The Rock. Obviously, the big one of the Undertaker, although would Sting versus American Badass Undertaker be as big as it would have been if it was Deadman Taker? I don't know. Even stuff like Sting versus Kane, then you could put him with the young guys such as Kurt Angle and stuff like that, so that'd be great. Then obviously 3rd pick, Booker T, another one I think's a no-brainer really. Obviously he came in 2001, so you just bring him in 2000 instead. I mean, Booker T had the look, the in-ring work, the mic work, so he would have done an excellent job. And the last one, just let me explain. It's got to be Scott Steiner. I know people are thinking, yeah, Steiner was in 2003 and it was awful, and you're right. However, in 2000, Scott Steiner was still in relatively good shape. I mean, he wasn't as knackered as he was in 2003, so he would have done well in the ring. I mean, holy fuck, you think Steiner Rock would have been big money, and obviously the big Papa Pump character in WCW 2000 was awesome, and like just real badass heel he could have been in this. So Steiner Rock could have been something. Even Steiner Triple H in 2000 probably would have been a pretty good match, and then obviously Steiner Taker, that would have been interesting. Then Steiner Kurt Angle, I mean, they did wrestle in TNA, but that was pretty crap. But I think in 2000 it would have been great. That would have been interesting, really. If Steiner had came in, could have really given Triple H a run for his money as a top heel in the company. So that would have been interesting. And then next set of questions come from Dav Preek. I think I've said your name right. I may not have. Then thoughts on Jeff Jarrett getting a main event push for most part of 2000. Oh, yeah, this was another bad thing for WCW 2000. Now, I don't hate Jeff Jarrett. I really don't. I just don't rate him as a top guy. I mean, I feel like the guy's a good worker, a decent talker, but he's not great at anything. I think he's just kind of there. Just not main event material in my opinion. Always thought he was a good mid-carder. Always thought that. When he was in the WWF, he was a great Intercontinental champion. Well, not a great Intercontinental champion, but a good Intercontinental champion. him and Owen Hart had a good tag team in '99, and obviously in WWE, good US champion, yeah, that'd be fine. Good up a mid-carder, maybe even give him an odd main event title shot here now and then, but don't push him as one of your top guys in the company. I feel like that's just one of the things that made WCW look bad. Having Jeff Jarrett on top, I mean, really, I'm just not a big fan of him. I feel like he's just not a main event level performer and assured. Always seemed out to be depth of the top guy for me. And then the way WCW pushing was awful as well. I mean, we got something like 4 world title reigns in about 2 months, which was just fucking stupid. But yeah, and then we got another question. Thoughts on Rikishi admitting to running over Stone Cold Steve Austin? Now, this was not good, was it really? I mean, you had this awesome build-up for who ran over Stone Cold and all that. The storyline was fantastic. Everyone was loving it. Then you do all that and it's Rikishi? You're like, what? How anticlimactic was that? And I'm just going to do it because I know what people are probably going to want me to do. It goes, I did it for The Rock. I'm just going to do that one because I know that's what people want me to do. So yes, Rikishi ran over Stone Cold, but he did it it was just like, what the fuck? It was just like really it was pretty much out of left field, wasn't it? I think no one was thinking Rikishi, and I'm sure it was a bad move. It just didn't work. And obviously WWE agreed with that because not too long later they had to try and fix the storyline by having Triple H be the one be behind it the whole time, which that's probably how it should have ended anyway. I mean, it should have just been Triple H the whole time. I mean, first off, you put Rikishi in the main event of Austin, then with The Rock, but it was taking away a very popular character that they had of Dancing with Too Cool and Rikishi. It was just, it just wasn't very good. It was probably one of the first big mistakes that WWE made, I would say, at the end of 2000, and then forced a Mick Foley coming back just weeks after he's putting his career on the line and losing to Triple H at No Way Out. Bit of a two-part question, your thoughts on the Mania 16 2000 main event becoming a fatal 4-way. Now, as far as Foley, I didn't like it. Thought it was horrible, to be honest with you. I think even Foley's kind of admitted he made a mistake now. I mean, obviously he lost the match at No Way Out. That was an awesome way to end his career. And if he hadn't wrestled again until 2004, that would have been awesome. I know wrestling retirements is usually something of a joke. I mean, but this guy, he came back in about 3 weeks. He returned to Raw about 4 weeks later or whatever it was. And then, I just wish he hadn't have done it. I mean, I wish he'd have stuck to his retirement. Although, in his defence, Vince and WWE kind of talked him into it. He kind of found, when Vince McMahon's asking you to main event WrestleMania, it's kind of hard to say no, isn't it really? But just wish it hadn't happened. Feel it took so much away from that Hell in a Cell retirement match. And as far as becoming a fatal 4-way, I didn't like that either. I mean, I think it's obvious that it should have been Triple H and The Rock, which is one of the questions answered here, but definitely should have been Triple H and The Rock. I mean, if it had to be a fatal 4-way, I suppose Foley wasn't a bad option to be in it, but should have just been Triple H and The Rock, really, shouldn't it? I mean, that was pretty straightforward. You got your top face, you got your top heel in the main event of WrestleMania. That just should have been how it went down. Then we got best/worst feuds of 2000, including any federation. So I'll do a few of the best feuds first. Obviously, The Rock and Triple H. I mean, that's a no-brainer. That was a great feud. Obviously, for the WF title, Rock versus McMahon Helmsley faction, a backlash into Judgment Day. Best feud, obviously, for me, Triple H Cactus Jack in early 2000s. For me, that was just one of the best storylines that we ever did. One of the best feuds that we ever did, where they were abusing Mankind so much that he had them off back into Cactus Jack to get a Triple H. The street fight at the Royal Rumble, the build up into the retirement match at No Way Out, stuff like that. Another great feud. Obviously, Hardy's, Dudley's, Edge, and Christian. I mean, those we'll put them all together because of different times they feud with each other. But from the Royal Rumble 2000 table match of Hardy's and Dudley's to the WrestleMania 2000 Triangle Ladder match, TLC at SummerSlam, obviously Hardy's then went on to beat Edge and Christian at Unforgiven. Probably the best tag team feud in WWF history, to be honest with you, those three teams. Then another good feud, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho. Really excellent mid-card feud. I say upper mid-card feud because usually those matches were the semi-main event, but great feud for the Intercontinental title. Just a great wrestling feud, really. I would say this feud almost became a great feud, but Triple H and Kurt Angle, I mean, the build-up of that feud was awesome, but the ending was awful, but up to that was a good feud. Now, WCW, I'm trying to think of something good in WCW in 2000, a good feud. I suppose Goldberg and Steiner to an extent. Then, yeah, that's about it really. Then worst feuds, oh god. So we'll go Hogan and Ric Flair feuded in 2000. Sting and Lex Luger feuded in 2000. Hogan, Billy Kidman, that was a piece of shit feud, really was a bad feud. Shane Douglas and Billy Kidman feuding over Shane having a Viagra on a pole match. And yes, I am serious, that actually happened. Ton of shit, really. WWF, I would say. Undertaker Kane feud again in 2000, into SummerSlam 2000. That was just like, why is this feud even happening again in 2000? Does anyone really give a shite about this? I would even say to an extent, I would say the Austin Rikishi feud was pretty bad. Didn't really like that one at all. There's a few WCW ones like yeah. Pretty sure Bagwell and David Flair had a horrible feud. There's a lot of horrible feuds in WCW, and then we got a best/worst faction in 2000, including any Fed. So it's a very short list for best factions because there weren't really any good factions apart from the Man Helmsley faction from like the mid 2000s of Triple H, DX, the McMahons, and all that. But that wasn't a fantastic faction or anything like that. Don't really think there was any other. Unless you count Edge, Kurt Angle, and Christian as a faction, although I don't think they were officially a faction. I think they were just aligned together. The Radicals were good to an extent, although didn't really last that long. I mean, I think they split up pretty much by May 2000, got back together at the end of 2000. So worst faction, I would probably say Millionaires Club in WCW. New Blood could have been great, but it wasn't booked very well. What do you call them? Filthy Animals were not that good, to be honest with you. Wasn't a big fan of them. Actually, for best factions, let's just go back to best factions for a moment. A faction I did actually quite enjoy in WCW was the Natural Born Thrillers that came in towards the end of 2000. You had 5 young guys from the WCW power plant coming in, and they became a faction. So you had O'Hare, Palumbo, Mark Jindrak, Mike Sanders, I think his name, Mike Sanders, and can't remember, Reno, I think he called him. I think that was his name. So yeah, that was actually a really good faction. And then trying to think of other bad faction. Actually, I've just forgot another good faction. Obviously, Right of Censor and the WWF I thought was a really good faction. Really worked for the Attitude Era and all that. And then that's about all I could think of, really. And then we got King of Wrestling 98, most underrated match. So most underrated match of the year 2000, I will go with Triple H versus Chris Benoit from No Mercy 2000. That was a great match. That was an awesome match, actually. I mean, that was probably one of Triple H's best wrestling matches of his career. I mean, not with brawls or Hell in a Cells or all like that. So just a straight up wrestling match. I think they went about 18 minutes on pay-per-view. It was just a phenomenal match, it really was. That people forget about, and obviously with what Benoit did in 2007. A lot of his stuff here doesn't get talked about anymore, but this was probably one of the most underrated matches of all time, not just 2000 to be fair. Then we've got most overrated match. This is nitpicking because I thought there wasn't really many overrated matches in 2000, but I would say the 6-man Hell in a Cell at Armageddon, to the point where I don't think it was a classic match. I think it was a great match, but I'll give it a 4-star rating. I see a lot of people give it anything from 4.5 to 5 stars, but I don't think it was in that kind of category. I think it was a great match though, but wasn't like one of the best matches of all time or anything like that. Well, I didn't think so anyway. Then thoughts on DX and the Radicals versus Too Cool, The Rock and Cactus Jack from Raw. Oh, I love that match. That's one of the hottest Raw matches ever, really. I mean, definitely the best TV match of the year in the year 2000. So it was the week after the Radicals had debuted, wasn't it? I mean, February 6th maybe. It's on the network if you haven't seen it, but yeah. So what a super hot main event. I think it was in Dallas as well, if I'm remembering right. What I love, it was one of those 10-man tag matches. Well, what I love about these matches sometimes is you can have a super hot, fast-paced match, and it's alright because you keep alternating between guys, so the action can keep flowing. And this is one of those matches where the action just never stopped. Everything was just fast-paced and exciting. All the guys out there look good. And how cool was that just a week after debuting, the Radicals were main eventing Raw. I mean, it was because Guerrero was injured, so it was Benoit, Malenko and Saturn, wasn't it? And then obviously the end where Kane came back to just destroy everything in sight. That was an awesome ending. A really hot time. Amazing match, actually. Then Yori Ashley and Chris Jericho beat Triple H and won the WWE Championship. Well, he didn't actually win the championship, so that match was strictly for the record books. But I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I mean, what an unpredictable moment that was. I mean, so I'm watching Raw and Jericho and Triple H are in the opening match. Then all of a sudden it becomes a WWE title match, so you're thinking still end of some shenanigans or something stupid like that. Triple H will retain the title, but it'll be a cool match nonetheless. Then they do the thing where Jericho actually ends up quote unquote winning the title. I mean, wow! Just little things like that. They just don't do things like that anymore. I mean, so often like wrestling now is just so, you know, there's a formula that always sticks to. I mean, you pretty much have a good idea of what's going to happen. You don't really see many unpredictable shit no more. I mean, for this one, and the crowd, holy fuck! I think they were just in shock by what's happening. I mean, Jericho's a made man after. I mean, Jericho's first few months in the WWF was a bit of a struggle, but I feel like once this happened, he fully cemented himself as a WWF superstar, and it was all systems go from that point on. Just wow, just an awesome moment. And what a dick move by Triple H using the referee to reverse the decision to keep the title onto him. Just awesome. I mean, really awesome. I mean, ultimately, obviously, Jericho never won the title, so it didn't really count. But it was a cool moment while it lasted. One of probably Raw's hottest moments in 2000. Also doing not doing The Rock versus Triple H at WrestleMania. Like I said, big mistake. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the Fatal 4-Way match, especially McMahon in every corner, which I believe that's a later question, so we'll talk about that when we get to it. But it seemed so simple, didn't it? I mean, you got the WWF in 2000, hot period. WrestleMania 2000's coming up. You got The Rock as a top babyface in the company. You got Triple H as a top heel in the company. So that's your WrestleMania main event, right? I mean, that makes sense. But obviously WWF didn't want to do that. I mean, they had the Big Show in there. Then they wanted to bring Mick Foley back for a feel-good moment, which kind of didn't really work. So we got the Fatal 4-Way instead. And it had to be Triple H and Rock, really. And that could have been an awesome WrestleMania main event, to be honest. I mean, I feel like that environment, they would have had an awesome match. both guys, because obviously both guys were still trying to prove themselves, really. I mean, especially Triple H. I mean, Triple H had the Cactus Jack feud. Now this is his first WrestleMania event to cement himself as a top guy for the long haul. So this match would have been great. I feel like we really missed out there. Then we got Steven Taylor. And I wanted to make Trish Stratus my wife this year. I still want to make Trish Stratus my wife. Well, number one, that's not really a question. And number two, in your dreams, pal. I mean, there's not a chance you'll ever bang Trish Stratus or make Trish Stratus your wife. Even now she's older. But especially in 2000, you would not have had a shot. Then which move was better, the rock bottom or the bookend? Surprisingly enough, I think the bookend. I like the bookend better. I mean, they both obviously did the rock bottom, but both did it differently. Rock did it as more of a forward slam. Booker T dropped to his knees when he did it. I just feel like Booker T's bookend actually looked like the better move, to be honest with you. I mean, which is probably surprising since the rock bottom's really associated with the Rock. That's his move. But I feel like Booker T made it better, and I really do. What have we got next? Was Kane the best shape of his career or what? Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, as far as muscularity is concerned and all that, guy was a fucking tank. I mean, guy was fucking ripped to fucking shreds out here. I mean, he was fucking huge. He probably was the biggest muscular-wise he was in his whole career. He looked pretty impressive looking dude. Thoughts on DDP cutting his hair. I mean, just a haircut really. Didn't really bother me or anything like that. I mean, he had long hair, then he cut it short. I mean, probably kind of looked better with short hair, to be fair. I mean, he's had long hair. Look, he looked like a bit of a scruffy bastard, really. I mean, but he probably looked better with short hair, in fairness. And then this is a good one, actually. Thoughts on Scott Steiner's Ric Flair rant. So, I believe this took place on a Thunder in early 2000, if I'm remembering right. Scott Steiner wasn't in a feud with Ric Flair or anything like that, or no storyline. He just went out and did a massive anti-Ric Flair rant. He just ranted for about 5-10 minutes just talking shit about Ric Flair. How Ric Flair was a piece of shit and all that, which, I'm not going to lie, the rant was kind of entertaining. The only way Scott Steiner knows how to be a complete raving, ranting lunatic. But what was the point in it? I mean, it's not. If I would have liked it more, and it would have made more sense if like Steiner and Flair were in the storyline, and Steiner was venting all this to make money and further the storyline. But he wasn't. He just did it because he wanted to do it for no particular reason. And of course, no one's going to tell him off, because do you want to go up and go, Mr. Steiner, can you please not do that again, please? Yeah, I wouldn't really want to tell Scott Steiner he can't do something, but it was just a bit stupid, really. I mean, it was kind of entertaining, but was there any real reason to do it? Not really, but yeah. And then we got next set of questions. These are 101 Raw. Is it fair to say we'll in capital letters never see a roster this deep again? No, it's not fair to say, because we did see a roster more deeper than this in both 2001 and 2002. I mean, think about it. Was a roster deep in 2000? Absolutely, but obviously WCW and ECW guys came over in 2001. Then especially to look at 2002's roster. I mean, you had everyone you had in 2000, more or less, apart from Mick Foley, really. Then you added the WCW guys that came in 2001, such as Booker T, DDP, Lance Storm, all those kind of guys. Then the ECW guys, such as Van Dam, RVD and people like that. And then Hogan and Flair were back in the company. Nash and Hall were back in the company. So I would say it's not fair to say this was the deepest roster ever, because 2002 was, in my opinion. And then we got should Rock and Triple H had the blow-off match at King of the Ring 2000, The Rock going over clean? Yeah, I think so. I mean, I didn't really like that 6-man tag match at all. It was Triple H, Vincent Shane versus The Rock, The Undertaker, and Kane. Could have easily had Taker and Kane do something else, anything else really. But to me, it seems like a convenient excuse for Triple H to lose the title back to The Rock without doing a clean job for him again. It just made sense, really. Obviously, Triple H went over at WrestleMania, Rock went over at Backlash, Triple H got the belt back at Judgment Day, so you'd think do one last match at King of the Ring, maybe do a stipulation of a cage or something like that, or I quit match or anything really, and with The Rock going over clean to win the title, because The Rock won the title anyway, so why didn't he just beat Triple H clean to win the title back, really? But so I would agree with that, definitely. Then we got, if Austin had been able to wrestle at WrestleMania 2000 face Rock like planned, do you think HBK would have came back to face Triple H like rumoured plan? I'll say probably not, because I think, wasn't that like the time Shawn Michaels was still pretty fucked up on drugs and all that? I mean, his drug problem and that was still there. And I feel like that more so than the physical problems was what was holding him back all this time. I feel like if Shawn Michaels had his shit together, would have come back to do ref in the ring a lot sooner, but so I'll say probably not. So in that case, what he could have done is had Austin Rock. Then he could have held off the Mick Foley retirement and did Triple H and Cactus Jack at WrestleMania, had Foley retire at WrestleMania like he did it No Way Out, basically. If Austin never been injured as Survivor Series 97, faced The Rock at WrestleMania 2000 like planned, do you think he would have turned heel inside of Vince like rumoured, or do you think he'd put over The Rock clean and take few for it? I don't know. I'm obviously just guessing. If I had to guess, I would say the heel. He probably wouldn't have turned heel in 2000. I would say the most logical sense, with it not being in Texas, with The Rock not going off to do movies until 2001. I think the most logical would have been for Austin to put The Rock over clean at WrestleMania 2000, wouldn't it? And then maybe take a few months break, maybe, but that wasn't really. I think taking the break for Austin, if he was 100% fit, probably wasn't necessary. But I would say out of those two scenarios, him putting The Rock over clean would have been the most likely one. And then we got, and I hope I said your name right, Patagoon, possibly, yeah. I think WCW would have turned out with Bret Hart and Goldberg didn't get injured and Randy Savage signing another deal. Probably not any different, really. I mean, I just don't think those guys, either being not injured or not being there, wouldn't have made much of a difference. I mean, but as far as what they would have done, I mean, Bret was a champion at the time, and he was set to face Sid had sold out. So I'm thinking there's probably a good chance Bret was going to lose the title at Sold Out anyway to Sid. That would have made sense. And then what would Bret would have done for the rest of 2000? Well, you're thinking maybe he would have turned face again after that. Maybe feud with Jeff Jarrett. That might have been decent. Then you're thinking he would have been in the not New Blood, fucking Millionaires Club faction and done something like that. Maybe Bret Hart and Billy Kidman would have been a decent. That would have been a much better feud than Hogan and Billy Kidman. Would have been a bit more believable, because obviously Bret wasn't that much bigger than. Well, he was bigger than Kidman, but not like Hogan and Kidman, where Hogan's like nearly a foot taller and well over 100 pounds heavier. So that might have been an interesting feud, and I don't know, maybe another world title run later on the year. Who knows? And then Goldberg. I mean, suppose Goldberg would have continued feuding with the NWO, maybe Sold Out, do Goldberg and Nash and Hall or something like that. Then I would say maybe after you do big feud between Goldberg and Sid for the title, hopefully Goldberg doesn't come back and turn heel and all that. And then what would Savage? I think Savage was done pretty much. I think it was finished by 1999. I mean, I really did not like that Randy Savage 1999 run. I mean, when he came back, looked different. Looked like he was stupidly pumped up on steroids with his team madness and all that. I think obviously the big knee injury he got in 1998. He never really recovered from that, and obviously to combat that he tried to just pump up on steroids, but it didn't really work. So I didn't really see any need for Savage to be around WCW in 2000. Don't think that would have been very good, to be honest with you. Then, Who do you think would have been the one to beat RVD for his television title? So yeah, so RVD obviously he was TV champion for like nearly 2 years. I think it was like 20, trying to think, maybe 22, 23 months. I can't remember exactly how many months, but it was just shy of 2 years. Then he broke his ankle in early 2000 and relinquished the title. I mean, the first person I thought of would have been perfect sense for Jerry Lynn to finally beat him for his title, but I'm pretty sure Jerry Lynn got injured either before or around the same time as RVD, because they both made the comeback matches at Hardcore Heaven 2000 against each other. So, say RVD wasn't injured, I would say probably, since he was the guy who had the next run for TV Championship, probably Rhino would have been the one, probably would have made the most sense. I mean, the up-and-coming heel beat the hot babyface champion. So I'll probably go with Rhino. I think Rhino would have made the most sense to be the one to beat RVD. Then we got, do you think WWE made any contact with Scott Hall to join? As far as I'm aware, no. Scott Hall obviously got fired from WCW in late 2000, and then as far as I'm aware, I don't think there was any interest in WWE Scott Hall at that time. As far as I'm aware, WWE didn't really contact Scott Hall to come back until early 2002. So I don't think so. Do you think Raven should have stayed on WCW? Well, yeah, I suppose he might as well have, really. I mean, considering DCW only hung on for another maybe 5, I think it was about 5 months after that, so I suppose he might as well just stayed with ECW to the end and then came to the WWE for the invasion and stuff like that. So yeah, and then force a Naked Midian. Thanks for that. Thanks for reminding me of that. Ugh, Naked Midian. Yeah, this just goes to show not everything the WWE 2000 was great. I mean, they were still prone to some bad shit and bad gimmicks themselves. So you got this 300-pound guy called Midian who was a streaker. That was his gimmick. He came out naked, although he wasn't actually naked. He used to have a fanny pack covering his balls and stuff like that, which was small mercies, I suppose. Oh god, that was just terrible. Oh, that was the absolute. Who the fuck wants to see a big ugly 300-pound guy run around naked? Unless you have weird fetishes about that thing, which if you do, that's fine. That's fine. I'm quite a tolerant person of things like that, but I personally found it rather disgusting. I mean, if you had Trish Stratus or someone like that run around naked, that would have been awesome. But the one person in the company you give a naked gimmick to is fucking Midian. Yeah. What the hell were they thinking? Then we got Gold Standard 00924. Thoughts on the Sting and Vampiro feud? And do you think it gets overlooked because of how Revell WCW was at the time? I feel like this feud could have been awesome, but it was alright. It wasn't a terrible feud, but it wasn't a good feud either. But you're right, I do feel like if WCW was doing better and it was booked better, and I kind of get the impression Sting just wasn't really interested in making Vampiro star. I mean, on paper it's quite interesting because you got face painted Sting versus face painted vampire Vampiro, so kind of similar characters. Vampiro could be kind of a younger, darker Sting, but I just think they couldn't help themselves doing stupid shit like the Human Torch match at Great American Bash. That was just like, what the fuck was this? And stuff like that. Just, yeah, I feel like it was alright, but just alright. Probably could have been and should have been a lot better than. Suppose if Austin didn't get injured, he fought The Rock and fought Rock at WrestleMania 2000 turn heel like a year earlier. Since WCW was still active, would that drastically affect WWE's popularity regardless? Yeah, I think it would have been. I don't know. I don't think it would have. I don't think ratings would have dropped as much as it did in 2001. But I feel like obviously the Austin Turner heel thing was a bad move. Let's just not get away from that. That was a stupid thing to do at a stupid time. But obviously the Monday Night War was over. A lot of fans were tuning out of wrestling. You know, I think in a lot of ways wrestling had peaked in 2000, 2001. And there was going to be an inevitable downslide anyway, but I think if Austin had turned heel in 2000 it would have been as bad, I don't think. Obviously, I don't know. That's just me guessing. I could be completely wrong about that, to be honest, but I don't think it would have been as bad. I don't think, obviously, because they wouldn't have done it in Texas either. That's one of the main things as well. Obviously, I think one of the big things is when Austin turned heel, The Rock was off doing the Scorpion King, so you didn't have a hot baby face. So you would have had. So if The Rock was still around, you would have at least had a hot baby feud for a hot heel Austin to feud with. So I think it would have been better, but I don't think it would have been as bad. What was your reaction to Taz's debut? Do you think he would have gelled well in the main event scene had WWE booked him properly, or were the outside factors that prevented this from happening? Oh, I thought it was a great debut at the time. I mean, we're all fairly used to our favourite indie stars coming into the WWE now. So, the likes of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and Shinsuke Nakamura coming in, Prince Devitt coming in from New Japan, AJ Styles coming in. But it was really cool to see someone that the die-hard fans love, the ECW fans love, Taz. And here he was coming to the WWF in Royal Rumble 2000. And so I was really excited. I mean, obviously, if you remember, I don't know how old you are if you were watching WWF at the time, but for several weeks, WWE kept flashing Taz's 13 logo on the Titantron and saying stuff like the Path of Rage is on its way and stuff like that. So it was pretty obvious to anyone that it was going to be, this meant Taz was coming in, because I think it was pretty much confirmed several months earlier that Taz had signed. I mean, Taz had agreed he's doing what he did in something like September 1999, because that's why he lost the ECW title at Anarchy Rules 99. So it was obviously known. And then Kurt Angle has a mystery opponent for the Royal Rumble. They're doing all these 13 promos on the Titantron. So it's got to be Taz, hasn't it? And it was awesome. And now, do I think Taz should have been a main eventer? I mean, I would say no, because obviously, look at that roster. I mean, look at the top guys in that roster. You had The Rock, Triple H, Mick Foley was still there at the start, The Big Show, Kane, and obviously later The Undertaker, Benoit, Jericho, Kurt Angle. Was Taz better than them? Not really. I mean, and wrestling, I feel like then it was still more of a big man's game even then. And obviously Taz being 5'9", wasn't your typical WWE superstar. So this was way before Daniel Bryan was main event in WrestleMania. Hell, it was even a good 4 years before Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero were world champions. So at the time, I thought WWE horribly misused Taz. I mean, I really did. But as I've grown older and gotten to know a bit more, I've kind of understood why he wasn't pushed as hard as people said he should have been pushed. So I don't really think Taz should have main evented WWF, but definitely could have been used better. But yeah, just his style as well people weren't really wrestling that style at the time. And then I feel like another major factor that hurt him. So Taz was the smaller guy, and then a week later the Radicals came in. I feel like the Radicals came in really overshadowed Taz as well. So just feel it didn't go well for Taz, and the WWF really did it. And then, did you enjoy Mick Foley's WWF commissioner tenure? And if so, what were your favourite moments? Oh, loved it. I would actually say Commissioner Foley is my favourite authority figure. GM, Commissioner, whatever the fuck fancy name you want to call it, President, all the fancy titles that authority figures have been given over the years in wrestling. Mick Foley's Commissioner 2000 is my absolute favourite. I just loved it. I really did. I thought it was fucking brilliant. Because you were going off a couple of years of the McMahons on TV all the time. So with them being off TV and having a good-hearted commissioner babyface, I thought that was just a really refreshing change. All he really did is let Mick Foley show up to work and be himself, and it worked. So obviously Mick Foley had retired in 2000. We're still under contract with the WWF, so although he wasn't physically the guy he used to be, he still had a personality, he could still talk. So that was great. I mean, I think they're great, but I'm going to give the obvious answer, really. I mean, most of his interactions with Edge and Christian, I mean, that was his comedy gold. It really was. I mean, stuff like when he caught Christian trying to pretending to be sick to get out of the match with the Acolyte fully loaded. Mick Foley looked over the cubicle and he was throwing chicken soup into the toilet instead of sick. The whole Mickey's got the sodas, Mickey's got the sodas. And actually one of my fun, it's so stupid, but it was just, I found it so hilarious. So Mick Foley had this drink, do you know like the little things you put in cocktail, like the little tiny umbrella decoration thing. So Edge and Christian said the Hardy Boys are so going to have the shortest reigns, and then Mick Foley was like, shortest reigns then? Maybe they need these, the shortest umbrellas. It was a stupid joke, but a total dad joke, but it was fucking brilliant. And when you used to have that, the judges thing, Joe, when they bang on the table and go, final! Yeah, well, I can't remember, I don't know what you call it, the mallet or whatever you want to call it. He did that, but he did an awesome one where he did it to Pat Patterson, and he smacked it on Pat Patterson's hand, and that was brilliant. And then, one segment where he's backstage with Al Snow, and Mick Foley was taking a drink, but then he told Al Snow that he was going to give him a title shot, and then, I think he was talking about the hardcore or the European title, I can't remember which one. Then Al Snow was like, it's going to be me and The Rock, and then Mick Foley's actually was spitting his drink all over. It was just fucking brilliant, yeah. And then possibly my favourite is Commissioner Foley. Remember, I think it was maybe a week after his commission, he was in the ring of The Rock, and then he goes to The Rock, he goes, you are now the 5-time WWF champion, one of the greatest superstars of all time, and I just want to know how that makes you feel. And The Rock, then Mick Foley goes, it doesn't matter how that makes you feel, yeah! So finally, after all the times The Rock was a smart ass and got picked up, it doesn't matter, someone had finally done it back to The Rock, and it was fucking brilliant. Foley was running around the thing going, yeah, Foley, Foley, Foley. Yes. Great memories, fucking great memories. I love Commissioner Foley. Then, this is a good one actually. If you had to play between two poorly received wrestling games that year, what would it be? ECW Anarchy Rules or WCW Backstage Assault? Oh God. ECW Anarchy Rules, both games were bad, yeah, but oh God. In the tradition of WCW being fucking terrible in 2000, they then did probably the worst wrestling game ever. Well, maybe not ever, but like the modern era. So I was obviously those very, very early video games bad, but say from like when video games became a bit more advanced and just walk around and punching and kicking in the ring. So wrestling backstage was a popular thing in like late 90s, early 2000s. They'd been introduced to, I think WCW Mayhem was the first game to do it. So WCW and EA Sports took that idea and just did it. Instead of just having a backstage area, the whole game was backstage. Hence the name WCW Backstage Assault. There was no ring, just fighting in the backstage area. But it wasn't even fun either. I mean, there's no tags, no tornado tags, no submission matches, nothing, just straight up exhibition matches with guys fighting in the backstage area. And do you remember, I don't know if anyone had, but remember like most of roster you had to fucking unlock at the start, which was just a pain in the ass. I mean, I'm all for unlockables, but there was hardly any wrestlers to start off with. And I don't remember the graphics. Obviously like wrestling graphics in 2000 and nothing like they are in 2017, but the graphics in 2000 looked so like very early PS1 games. It was just bad. But I think the ECW game, I've probably say Anarchy Rules was a better game than Hardcore Revolution, to be fair. I mean, at least Anarchy Rules try to do few new things like different match types. I mean, Although some of them were really weird. I mean, one there was an Inferno match, because how many Inferno matches did you ever see in ECW? There was a dumpster match in the game as well, which, again, how many dumpster matches did you ever see in ECW? And there was a Lion's Den match where it took place in a UFC style cage. I think those ECW games could have been good if it wasn't the exact same game as Attitude. Like, look, I'm not joking when I say like the exact same game. I mean, not just the exact same game engine, but the exact same game, especially Hardcore Revolution. Like, because obviously both made my Acclaim, but Acclaim was so fucking lazy. They literally, no, I'm not even joking. They literally took the Attitude game, same moves, same animations, all that, and just changed the wrestlers, and from WF wrestlers to ECW wrestlers, and just slapped ECW on it. No new animations, no new modes, nothing. It was the exact same game. So that kind of pissed me off, because, to be honest, but yeah, just to go back and answer the question, if I had to pick one game to play, it would definitely be Anarchy Rules. Now, we got the Variety Channel. Favourite pay-per-view of 2000, as I said before, Backlash. That's one of the all-time great WF pay-per-views of all time, especially B-level pay-per-views. By B-level I mean not the big four. Wow, awesome show, awesome show, really. You had a great, well, not a great open, but a good open between Edge and Christian and Road Dogg and X-Pac. Awesome gem of a match between Dean Malenko and Scotty 2 Hotty for the light heavyweight title. A chaotic fun hardcore title match, 6-way. Big Show and Kurt Angle was fun for what it was. Eddie Guerrero S.A. Rios was a good little mid-card match. Benoit and Jericho had a great match, and of course, super hot main event between Triple H and The Rock. Thought that was an absolutely fantastic match. And then what have we got? MVP of 2000. I entered this one before, but earlier in the video, Triple H, I already explained the reasons for that. So, do you think having the McMahons in the main event of WrestleMania kind of hurt the show? Yeah, I just did not like that concept at all. So obviously the Fatal 4-way, McMahon in every corner, Triple H with Stephanie, Big Show with Shane, The Rock with Vince, and Mick Foley with Linda. I think this is a time the McMahon family was really getting stale. I mean, it was fine early on, it was just Vince and Austin, but then obviously Shane came into the picture, Stephanie came into the picture, Linda was around. So you pretty much, instead of the focus being the actual 4 guys in the match, the focus was more on the dissension in the McMahon family, the dysfunction in the McMahon family storyline that were building at the time. It was just, And Linda McMahon, like the least charismatic person on planet Earth. Not just in wrestling or entertainment, but on the fucking planet Earth. Just saying. Then we got, what was the moment you realised WCW had officially died? I mean, hard to say. I mean, at the time we all knew WCW was bad, but I don't think we actually believed it would die. Over as bad as it was, I think we all thought it would be around in some form or fashion, in some way. But I would say, looking back now that I know a bit more, to say, obviously I didn't believe WCW would die until Vince McMahon was actually there on Raw saying he bought the company. But I think looking back, I think with WCW, I think the end was coming once the AOL Time Warner merger happened and Ted Turner lost his power. I mean, once Ted Turner was ousted from power, I think that was going to be it for WCW, because Ted Turner was WCW's biggest supporter over the years. I mean, when he was the boss, he was the one who kept it on the station, because not that Turner was a big wrestling fan or anything, but Georgia Championship Wrestling had been the main thing that had built his station in the early days. So he was always loyal to the wrestling, and he always wanted wrestling to be on his thing. Then I'll say the very final nail in the coffin was when Jamie Kellner came in and cancelled the TV shows, because without the TV time, the Bischoff deal was dead. And then obviously the rest is history. Then we got best/worst superstar 2000. Obviously, best was Triple H. Worst, I mean, ugh, you could rattle off a bunch of guys in WCW who are the worst. So I'm not sure who's the worst. I'll just give her a few. I'll say Lex Luger, The Wall. Remember him? Let's have a think. Yeah, there's quite a few really. Tank Abbott, people like that. Let's give it Tank Abbott because I think he was bloody awful. Then we got next set of questions from J-Cast. Do you think Stephanie's saying of Triple H is a bad move? Assuming you mean when they were building up a Triple H and Kurt Angle feud, and then obviously Stephanie kicked Kurt Angle in the balls instead of Triple H, and I would say absolutely. I mean, to me, to this day, that bothers me. That storyline was built up so brilliant. Honestly, the build up to all that was amazing, really. And then the obvious solution was Stephanie turns on Triple H and sides of Kurt Angle, but the storyline just kind of abruptly dropped. And then she kicked Kurt Angle in the balls, stayed of Triple H. That was it for the storyline. And even stupider, she started managing Kurt Angle at no mercy for some random reason. But yeah, I do think it was a terrible move. Is The Rock Triple H the best Iron Man match of all time? Not in my opinion, but a lot of people think that, and if you think that, that's totally fine. But for me personally, it's just me personally, I think the Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels one for WrestleMania 12 is better. I know that's a pretty divisive match. I mean, a lot of people love that match, a lot of people hate that match. I'm one of the ones that love it. I think that match is the best one ever. So no, The Rock and Triple H isn't. And where does Triple H rank in terms of best 1 year in wrestling? I mean, right up there, really. I mean, I don't know about a number, but I would say got to be somewhere around top 5, really, isn't he? Really, I mean, for overall, I mean, you got Flair in '89, Austin '98, Angle '02, Triple H in 2000s, right up there. Bret Hart in 1994. So he's in that class. He really is one of the best years ever, really. Who should have been reveals the one who ran over Steve Austin? Well, I'll tell you who it shouldn't have been. It shouldn't have been Rikishi, that's for sure. So at the time, I thought The Rock should have been the one to do it, but I've changed my mind on that over the years. I mean, that would have been great, but The Rock was so over as a babyface at the time. It would have been kind of stupid to turn him heel. So I feel like they should have just had it, the Triple H was behind the whole ordeal the entire time. He was the obvious choice, the big heel in the company. Him and Austin were feuding in 1999 before Austin got injured. So there you go, Austin comes back to work with Triple H. So I feel like it should have been Triple H. I mean, that would have been the most sensible option. Either it should have been Triple H, or it should have been obvious from the start that Triple H had hired a hitman to do it. They could have had, not named the actual driver, just maybe had it as Triple H was behind the whole thing. Then what do we have? We have Fourth and Armageddon 6-man Hell in a Cell match. Oh, that was a great match. Don't think it was a classic or anything like that. I remember being pretty excited for it at the time, though, because obviously we've seen Hell in a Cell matches, and then we had these 6 guys who were all feuding with each other. I mean, Austin was feuding with Triple H, Rock was feuding with Rikishi, Kurt Angle was feuding with The Undertaker, so he put all that in one Hell in a Cell match. That was an exciting sell for me as a young fan at the time. Thought at times it was hard to keep up with everything. It was a bit over chaotic. There's some great spots though, such as Rikishi going off the Hell in a Cell and stuff like that. Good finish of Austin and The Rock doing a few things. Triple H I think Triple H hit the pedigree, then Kurt Angle snuck the win. So I did like that match. I'd give it like a 4-star rating, but I don't think it was any better than that. Then we got a next set of questions. Chris Jericho, the greatest of all time. Chris Jericho's not the greatest of all time, but whatever. Then we got describe WCW in 2000 with 1 year, just one word. Pathetic. How about that? Pathetic. Then we got worst WCW pay-per-view in 2000. Answered this one before, but has to be uncensored. I mean, if I had to pick one terrible pay-per-view that year, would be uncensored. That was just a horrible piece of shit, to be honest with you. Just terrible. Then we got Was this one of WWE's best years? Not only was it one of WWE's best years, in my opinion, it was WWE's best year. I mean, think about this. I mean, obviously WWF was super hot in 98, 99, but I think the one criticism you could label at the company at the time, especially 99 more so than 98, was the wrestling wasn't very good, and that's a totally fair criticism. I do feel like the wrestling wasn't good, especially 1999. But then WCW, now in WWF in 2000, you have Triple H emerging as the top guy, Chris Jericho coming in, the Radicals coming in, Kurt Angle coming through, then obviously the tag teams, the Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian all becoming stars. So I feel now you had the great entertainment storylines known for the Attitude Era, but you also had good, very great wrestling overall. So the in-ring action was finally almost as good as the storyline. So it was pretty much a perfect balance, really. I mean, I'll say especially from January till about SummerSlam time. For me, that was the hottest period in the history of the WWF, in my opinion. Just fantastic stuff. Obviously the pay-per-views as well. Royal Rumble, No Way Out, Backlash, Judgment Day, Fully Loaded. All fantastic pay-per-views. Some awesome matches as well, such as Triple H and Cactus Jack, both matches. The two ladder matches between the Hardys, Dudleys, and Edge and Christian. Triple H and Rock Iron Man match. Jericho and Triple H at Fully Loaded. Fucking Rock and Benoit Fully Loaded. Thought that was a great match. The 10-man tag match on Raw that I previously talked about. So amazing stuff. And then again, another question I've already answered, but Wrestler of the Year, and I've already said it before, Triple H. And again, Show of the Year, already answered that one as well, which is Backlash. Then we got next set of questions, Honorable Seriata. Were Chris Kresge's storylines in 2000 better than Russo's 1998 and 1999 storyline? I'll say, yeah, I think so. I mean, although I will say that Vince Russo's best storyline, Austin McMahon, or Stone Cold Vince McMahon storyline, was better than any of Kresge's storylines, and maybe even when they did the thing where they turned the Rock heel at Survivor Series 98. But I'll say overall Kresge's storylines are more, coherent. I think they made a lot more sense. I mean, there was less silly turns and swerves here. I mean, stuff like the Triple H Cactus Jack storyline, amazing storyline. Obviously, The Rock going through the Man Helmsley faction to win the WWF Championship before it got fucked up. And I'm not sure if this was after Kresge left, because I'm not entirely certain exactly when Kresge left the company, but the whole build-up of Triple H and Kurt Angle with but before the boss definitely didn't turn on Triple H, so great stuff. I'll say Kresge's storylines made a lot more sense and were a lot more coherent. Obviously, I think there was far less title switches than that in Kresge, although there was still a lot of title changes in 2000, but I'll say there was less pointless title changes and stuff like that. Yeah, so I'll think so anyway. Thoughts on Kurt Angle's world title reign? I think it's one of those classic reigns where the champion's not the top guy type thing, if that makes sense. I mean, we've seen a few of these title reigns over the years. Someone has the title, but they're clearly not the top guy. I mean, Chris Jericho's undisputed title reign comes to mind. CM Punk's first world title, all of Punk's title reigns actually, to be fair. But so I feel like it was alright title reign. Problem was though, I feel like when he was a champion, focus of the company wasn't really on Kurt Angle. I mean, you think about it, at best he was the number 4 guy behind Austin, Rock and Triple H. And you can also maybe say Undertaker was ahead of Kurt Angle as well, so it was a decent title reign. He had some good matches in that title reign. I'll say, ironically, the best thing in his entire title reign was his little feud and match with The Rock at No Way Out 2001, but yeah, I just feel like good title reign, but could have been better if they booked it. They didn't book it great. They didn't make Kurt Angle look like a totally strong champion that he could have been. I mean, let's remember he won the match with the Undertaker. He cheated in that one. Kind of won the Hell in a Cell match on a bit of a fluke way. He just happened to be in the right place at the right time to get the pinfall. So yeah, it was one of those classic title runs where he was a champion, but he wasn't really the top guy, and that rarely works, really, does it? And then we got which was a better WCW champion that year, Scott Steiner or Booker T? Good question. I mean, they were both actually pretty good champions towards in the WCW, but I might surprise some people and go with Scott Steiner here. I feel like Scott Steiner's title reign at the end of 2000 was actually pretty good. I feel like what it did, I mean, obviously in 2000 there was so many title changes, it wasn't even funny. So I think Steiner had the belt for the last 4-5 months of WCW, whatever, how many months it was, but I feel like what he did, I think he stabilised the title in a time where the belt desperately needed stability. I mean, he was a stable champion. I mean, he was a credible champion. I mean, he had the look, he had the mic skills. Well, he sort of had the mic skills, I mean, in a sense. I mean, although admittedly some of Scott Steiner's promos were dreadful, he was in-ring work, I mean. So I'll go with Scott Steiner. I feel he actually did a pretty good job as WCW champion towards the end. Which had the better women's division that year, WWF and WCW? Well, I say WWF by default. I mean, neither really had a good women's division at all. I mean, did WCW even have a women's division, really? I mean, well, obviously there wasn't a women's title or out like that. I mean, there was a couple of like matches, but they were all stupid TNA type matches, with like Major Guns, Miss Hancock, I don't remember Tori Wilson wrestling that year. She might have done, but I can't remember it. I think Daphne had a few matches with people like Miss Hancock and shit like that. Whereas at least in the WWF you had a few credible women such as Ivory and Jacqueline, obviously Lita. I think the problem was the women's division in WWF. Stephanie had the title for like months and months and months and didn't defend it, so it was kind of pointless type thing. But yeah, so I said do it by default because at least he had some credible women like Jacqueline, Ivory, Lita. Trish was just learning at the time. Obviously Trish didn't really become good till later. So they do the rest women division by default, really. Sorry, clear me throat there. But people are predicting that Nitro is going to stop airing on Mondays by the end of the year. Not that I can remember. I mean, they might have done, but I personally don't remember that. I mean, I do remember WCW did switch funded to Wednesdays, I think it was. Because it used to be on Thursdays going up against SmackDown, but it was getting smashed every week, so moved to Wednesdays. So I don't remember this becoming a thing. Hindsight, maybe they should have done, but this is something that I can't personally remember, and this one, ugh, cool. That name kind of cracked me up a little bit, and then, actually, two questions, actually. What are your thoughts on ECW and their show on the time, ECW on TNN, I think? I didn't really watch a lot of ECW on a TNN, I think in the UK we got the syndicated show Hardcore TV, I think, which I only watched every now and then. I don't think we actually got the ECW on TNN show in the UK. I'm pretty sure ECW Hardcore TV was on Bravo at the time, if I'm remembering right. So I haven't really seen any of this ECW on TNN show, but for what I'm reliably told, it wasn't actually that good of a show. TNN didn't do much to advertise ECW and all that, and then as far as ECW, I think they had a lot going for it. I mean, there's another question later on about ECW in 2000, which I'll answer a bit more in depth in the next question, but I was alright, which I'll get into. And then we go, did you switch channels from Nitro to Raw in 2000? No, not really. I mean, I was pretty much watching the WWF more or less exclusively in 2000. I mean, sorry, there was just no way I was going out of my way to watch WCW. I mean, I saw bits of it. I mean, I think I had a friend who used to tape WCW and I used to watch it sometimes. But if Raw was on and Nitro was on, I was watching Raw. I wasn't bothering with switching over to Nitro. What's the point, really? I mean, Raw was awesome, Nitro was the shits. Then we're getting there now. We're getting there. We've been quite a while in, but we have got quite a few more questions. So if you've been with me for this long, thank you very much. But stay with me. We're getting there. Owen Peterson. Were there any WCW pay-per-views that did better than the WF of that pay-per-view the same month? I would say only one you could possibly say is maybe Fall Brawl was as good as or better than Unforgiven 2000, and that was in September 2000. Not sure if it was better or worse. I might have to go back and check them both out and see. And then another one, I would say Starrcade 2000 was probably overall as good or better than Armageddon 2000, but that's about it really. Didn't it seem rather strange that Kurt Angle was treated as a heel, even though his gimmicks had the vibe of a classic All-American babyface? Well, I think you kind of missed the point there, to be honest with you. That was kind of the point, wasn't it? I mean, wasn't the Kurt Angle's gimmick supposed to be a piss-take, a parody of the classic babyface? I mean, I always thought that was kind of the point, that Kurt Angle was a heel by being the classic babyface in 2000, because obviously by the time the Attitude Era was around, the classic babyface was done. Everyone hated that kind of face. So yeah. But for me, wasn't that kind of the point? Kurt Angle was taking the piss, parodying a classic babyface, and that was kind of why he was a heel, because he did it with enough sarcasm that you knew you were supposed to boo him. So that was kind of the point, wasn't it? Because obviously that time was like rebellious time. You had the anti-heroes, Stone Cold Steve Austin and all that, the smart ass bastard and The Rock and people like that. So obviously Kurt Angle coming out and being the happy good guy, that's kind of what made him. He was a bit like Mr. Backlund. He was essentially a bad guy by being a good guy, if that makes sense. Also, Mike Graham's claims that the Radicals, Booker T, Shane Douglas and Jeff Jarrett, in quotation marks, never drew a dime while in WCW. I love that. I mean, I think there's a video out there of just a compilation of Mike Graham's shooting interviews and claiming so-and-so never drew a dime. Because like every time I see, he always like emphasise that quote, never drew a dime. Now, I do kind of feel like he was right. Although I do kind of think he was right about these guys not drawing a dime in WCW, I just feel he's kind of being a dick about it. I think it's like doing it in a sarcastic, arrogant way that it's just like, oh, shut up. I mean, you can say things like that, but not be an arsehole about it, where I feel like it's kind of what Mike Graham was being. I mean, let's be honest, we all loved the Radicals at the time, but they weren't big draws in WCW, were they? Obviously. The Jeff Jarrett one was kind of funny when was it the Rise and Fall of WCW DVD where he said, Jeff Jarrett broke 1,000 guitars, never drew a dime. I think that was a quote. That was actually kind of a funny quote, and it was true. And then obviously he singled out Shane Douglas as a guy for not drawing a dime, which I kind of agree with that. And then Booker T, which I feel is a little bit harsh because he's never really put in a position to draw money. The only thing is, like, when Mike Graham's ragging on these guys, like especially when he rags on the Radicals, calling them midgets and that, and saying they never drew a dime, it's just kind of funny. I'm looking at him thinking, pot kettle black here. I mean, Mike Graham's calling these guys out for being midgets, but isn't Mike Graham as short or as shorter than these guys? I mean, what the fuck did Mike Graham ever do? I mean, yeah, he wrestled in his dad's territory, Eddie Graham's in Florida in like the 70s and that, but what did Mike Graham actually do in the wrestling business apart from that? Anyone? Did he have success in a national company? Nope. Did he have any minor success in a national company? No, not really. So, although I do feel he's kind of right, I feel it's kind of rich coming from Mike Graham to rag on these guys when, like I say, what the fuck was Mike Graham ever in this business? Really? Let's be honest. How does the Cactus Jack Triple H Street Fight, the Rumble 2000, compare with the same match from Raw at MSG in September 1997? Well, just a much better match, obviously a much bigger match. I mean, obviously, obviously the Raw match was upper mid card match on Raw with Hunter Hearst Helmsley versus Cactus Jack. I mean, neither Triple H or Cactus was the main event star at the time. Now here they were wrestling for the WWF Championship at a major pay-per-view like the Raw Rumble. Obviously, match was probably double in length. I mean, the Raw match wasn't about 10 minutes or something like that. This was more of this was like a full pay-per-view match, and obviously the match was just better overall. I mean, the match in 2000 was better. Although I will admit it's kind of a cool little stat that they had 2 street fights in the same arena a few years apart, but obviously it's hard to really compare because completely different circumstances. And then we got thoughts on William Regal's debut / return to the WWF in 2000. I like that. I mean, I like William Regal's 2000 gimmick. I really did there. Goodwill and Ambassador. Although, yeah, it was pretty much how American stereotype English people being posh and that and talking like this. So, but it also was kind of cheesy and all that. But that's all right. I mean, I can take a joke. I mean, I know there's a certain perception about British people that Americans have, which is good. It's all right. That's fine by me. I mean, I'm always up for a laugh and all that type of thing. I think he had a tea party or something like that where all you're trying to do is show you Americans some good table manners. And you just booed them, you besmirched them, you disrespected a gentleman. All he was trying to do is show you Americans some good table manners and stuff like that, and you shit on him. Then if I remember right, didn't Chris Jericho come out? I think Jericho came out and then threw all the cutlery and that off the table, which made Regal mad. So I liked it anyway. I thought it was pretty fun. And now we've got the next set of questions coming from Greedy Selfish 97. What did you think of Triple H versus Taka Michinoku from Raw's War, April 10, 2000? Oh, that match was fun as shit, wasn't it? I mean, was that? I can't remember if that was a WWF title match or not. And I actually think you might have your dates wrong there. Actually, I believe you do. I think your dates are wrong. I think it happened on April 17th because April 10th was a Jericho title switch thingy. So I think you got your date wrong there. I think it's April 17th actually, the following week. But I can't. The Triple H, yeah, so Triple H and Taka Michinoku had a match, and you're thinking, that's Triple H, the world champion. That's Taka Michinoku, 5'7", cruiserweight who hasn't really done shit in the WWF. Triple H will squash this little pipsqueak in about 2 minutes and it'll be fine. But they actually had a pretty deep, actually an entertaining as shit back and forth match. Where Taka got a few good near falls on Triple H and then Triple H won. So just a little thing like that they could do stuff like that now, really, couldn't they, really? So let's have a think of an example. So let's have Roman Reigns against someone like, I'm trying to think, like Heath Slater or someone like that. Have a little back and forth match where Heath Slater comes close to beating Reigns, but then Reigns wins in the end. It was a cool little match and definitely worth checking out, actually. And then thoughts on Just Incredible's pushing ECW Championship reign. I think it was fine. I think this unfairly gets shit on, I think, as one of the reasons ECW died. And I think that's unfair. I mean, I think at the time, who else was he really? I mean, obviously big stars had left, Taz had gone, Raven was on his way out, obviously Mike Awesome had abruptly left the company. I think at that time, RVD and Jerry Lynn were both injured, if I'm remembering right. Lance Storm left shortly after, so I think it was a case of Credible being around for a while. He got a pretty decent push. Was a good worker, a solid talker. So I feel like Paul Heyman gave Just Incredible the ball, a safe pair of hands for someone to put the ECW title on at the time. Because I think the feeling was Credible probably wasn't going to leave the company and go to WWF or WCW. So I think he did an alright job in the circumstances. I mean, he had some solid matches, cut some solid promos. I mean, it wasn't a fantastic reign or anything like that. I mean, But I think he did a good job overall, given the circumstances. I definitely thought he was a better champion than Steve Corino, I'll say that. I mean, Steve Corino's another one who got a push at the end towards ECW and a lot of guys left, so I'd definitely take Justin Credible's work over Steve Corino's, but anyway. Then we got forcing Vince Russo's Bash at the Beach promo on Hulk Hogan. Yeah, that was... Well, there's not the time and place to debate the whole circumstances around Bash at the Beach 2000. I mean, you can look Vince Russo's explanation up on YouTube, but the general crack is Vince Russo just went into business for himself. Just went on a massive rant. Oh, the rant is actually kind of entertaining. Just feel like he kind of went a bit too far ragging on Hogan. I mean, yeah, Hogan had done some bad things in WCW, but Vince Russo, Hulk Hogan, people, I mean, come on. Fucking Vince Russo couldn't touch anything Hulk Hogan ever did, so just feel like he went on a bit too far, to be honest with you. Then, even though some of it was most of it was shit, what are some of the funniest moments in WCW in 2000? Now, let's go for intentionally funny, not like accidentally hilarious. I did actually think some of the Tank Abbott new count, not fucking hell, Tank Abbott free count thing was kind of funny. I mean, Tank Abbott was dancing around with free count, so I actually thought that was kind of entertaining, to be honest with you. So I would say that was really good. Obviously, some of Scott Steiner's promos were unintentionally hilarious, and yeah, just when he rant on and come up with random words and just talk shit. So some of that was really good. But yeah, there's not much really, is there? I mean, most of it was absolute garbage. And then the Ultimate Challenge. What are we talking, WrestleMania 6 here? But no, in all seriousness, the top 3 best WCW pay-per-views of 2000. So, right, so the best one, I would say Fall Brawl, which was actually a good pay-per-view, to be honest. Goldberg and Steiner was a great main event. No, it wasn't the main event, it was a great match. Booker T and Nash had a pretty good match. Natural Born Thrillers, Filthy Animals was a good match. And there was probably one or two other good matches, I can't really remember them. Then number 2, say Starrcade 2000. The thing, I'm not sure if this was a good pay-per-view or not, or it looked good to me because I'd watched all the WCW 2000s pay-per-views in a row before getting to this, so I'm not sure if this was a good pay-per-view or it just looked good in comparison to the others. But there was some good stuff, like that opening ladder match was really good, great. That was a great match actually. Main event between Steiner and Sid was actually surprisingly solid. I can't remember what else happened. It was Jeff Jarrett and the Harris Brothers versus Filthy Animals, I think. That was a pretty good match. So yeah, that was actually a decent pit. I think it was a Terry Funk and Norman Smiley, wasn't it, for the hardcore title, I think. Then finally, I would say Spring Stampede was not bad. Not that it was a good pay-per-view or anything like that. Actually, no, I'll take that back. Slamboree was actually a halfway decent pay-per-view because it did have 2 good matches on there. Mike Awesome and Canyon, and then the Triple Cage, although, David Arquette was in it, that was stupid, but the match was actually not bad at all. It was actually a good match. Right, next set of questions come from Lonely Fanboy 48. Was WrestleMania 2000 bad? I found 2000 great because of so many debuts of wrestlers. Peter WrestleMania like the Hardy Boys and Chris Jericho. No, it wasn't a bad pay-per-view, but I don't think it was a massively disappointing pay-per-view, to be honest. I mean, let's be honest, I mean, I've seen a lot worse pay-per-views than this, a lot worse WrestleManias than this for that matter, but it wasn't a good WrestleMania, was it? It was probably one of the most disappointing WrestleManias because of just how hot the product was at the time, and the show really under-delivered for the most part, apart from like the Iron Man match. Not the Iron Man, what am I talking about? See, I've been talking for so long, my brain's stopped working properly. The Triangle Ladder match, that was awesome, but the rest was just, some of it was good, some of it was bad, but it wasn't a bad show. It was just a really disappointing one. What is the funniest moment for the WWF that year? So I can't really say one because there's a few. I mean, think this is a time where, and I'm guessing this is down to Chris Kresge's writing, but they actually knew how to do good comedy in 2000. I mean, we've seen some of the shit attempts at comedy they do now. I'm looking at you, Roman Reigns' tater tots joke, half the stuff Dean Ambrose does. Seth Rollins calling Chris Jericho Sparkle Crush. You remember that shit? So this was good. So, what I mentioned before. So I'll give out 3 to 5 examples. Because it's hard to really like pinpoint it down to just one. Let's go back to Commissioner Foley for a moment. I mean, do you remember earlier in the video where I talked about when Commissioner Foley got the Rock if it doesn't matter? Thought that was fucking fantastic. When I should have mentioned about where it kind of involved Commissioner Foley, where it was Sunday Night Heat. Christian wanted to challenge for the light heavyweight title, but Christian was above the light heavyweight weight by about 5 or 6 pounds or something like that. So Mick Foley said if Christian could lose the weight and before the end of the show he could have a title shot, and gave him this chicken suit training. And Mick Foley claimed that it was Kurt Angle's chicken suit that he trained in for the Olympics. I mean, so you're thinking on paper this is a completely stupid fucking claim by Foley, isn't it? Of course Kurt Angle didn't train in a fucking chicken suit for the Olympics. So then Kurt Angle comes around the corner seeing Christian in the chicken suit, and then Kurt Angle just comes out, "Hey, my chicken suit!" I just felt like the way he said it was absolutely fucking hilarious. I mean, if anyone could take himself seriously, it's Kurt Angle, but that's one of the things that made Kurt Angle so great. He was willing to make himself look silly sometimes. So I just love when he turns and goes, "Hey, my chicken suit!" Well, that was just a fantastic line. And obviously, I don't know if you remember before, I talked about the Mickey's got the sodas, Mickey's got the sodas. And then Edge was like, "Sodas rule." Remember Edge and Christian playing the kazoos, especially when they were annoying Triple H, when they were and then Triple H got mad. Oh, I just thought of this one. So do you remember? It was like it was on SmackDown, I think. There was a tag match set up. I think it was The Rock and Lita versus Triple H and Trish Stratus. I think that was a match. It might have been Jericho instead of Rock, but I think it was The Rock. I'm sure it was. So Triple H and Trish were a tag team. I mean, there was some tension building between Triple H and Stephanie in the last week or so. Then Trish asked Triple H to show some wrestling moves, so he did, and one of the big moves he showed her was a hammerlock. Then he told Trish to get out of it. All she had to do was bend over, then grab his leg, and then pull his leg, and then Triple H will fall back. So Triple H has Trish Stratus in a hammerlock, and Trish Stratus goes to bend over to pull it down, and at that moment Stephanie McMahon walks in the room, and what the hell does this look like? Her husband stood over a bent over Trish Stratus, so looks like he's trying to fuck her in the arse. And I just love Triple H's face when he realised Stephanie had walked through the door. You're just like, oh shit. That was just fantastic comedy, that one. And it just kind of ties into the next week. I think they had another match where Trish Stratus is down the mat. The Rock hits Triple H with a chair. Triple H falls on top of Trish Stratus, and the end rolls Triple H and Trish Stratus in the 69 position. I thought, that was just fucking hilarious. I mean, really was. And what I'll do one more, because I get the feeling I could go on for ages talking about. So it was Benoit feuding with Chris Jericho into SummerSlam 2000, and then Chris Jericho. Well, one of Chris Jericho's charms was when he would this is before Photoshop was cool as well. Have Photoshop images of people on the Titantron, and he goes, "I'm going to fight Chris Benoit on a boat." Then there's a picture on the Titantron of Chris Benoit on a boat. And I'm going to fight Chris Benoit with a goat. And then a picture of Chris Benoit with a goat, and then Chris Benoit as a blushing bride, and then the picture of Chris Benoit in a wedding dress, and then I think there was one more, but those are the ones that stick out in my mind. So yeah, some great comedy stuff, great memories. Why is it almost all the WCW pay-per-views awful? Just to let you know, I don't watch WCW, but when I watch some of their matches in 2000, I don't see why people found it so awful. Eh? I'm sorry, but you've completely hang on. So you said, why is it almost all stuff on WCW pay-per-views awful? But then you also said, I don't see why people found it awful. I'm sorry, but you've completely contradicted yourself, dude. I don't really know what to say to that. So I'm just gonna move on to the next question there. Then again, what was your favourite WWE pay-per-view in the year 2000? Answered this a couple of times. Backlash 2000. I think I've answered that like 4 times now. So when you guys do this, can you please read the comments before you ask a question? Because like 4 years have asked that same question. Then final question, was 2000 the final great year for ECW? No, I don't think it was. I thought it was a bad year. I mean, especially when you look at WCW's last year. Obviously, ECW had its problems. It really did. I mean, obviously, this is a year massive talent exits happened. Like Taz and Dudley's left in late '99. Mike Awesome left. Lance Storm left. So it was hard. So the ECW didn't have its greatest roster ever anymore. I mean, I think even RVD had left by October. I think RVD pissed off in October because he was pissed off at not getting paid. So you had people like Just Incredible, Jerry Lynn, Rhino, Steve Corino, and some good young talent like C.W. Anderson, Nova, Chris Chetty, trying to think of someone, Simon Diamond, pretty good. So I still, Kid Cash, pretty good. So I feel like it had a lot going for it, but I think the biggest, I'd say Tommy Dreamer was still there. So, but I feel like obviously Paul Heyman wasn't at his best in 2000. I feel like Paul Heyman's creative energies weren't there anymore. I mean, I think what he did, obviously he spent most of his time trying to keep ECW alive, trying to find money to pay the guys and all that. So his eye was off the ball as far as booking was concerned. So Paul Heyman wasn't this master booker that he had been in the past. So yeah, I think his eye was off the ball, and obviously his attentions was elsewhere. And then obviously hear about all the shit about the guys not getting paid and shit like that, which is just bad crack. And obviously the TNN deal fell apart, but still feel the guys went out there and worked hard. I think what's so sad is like, whereas I feel like the guys in WCW stopped giving a fuck after a certain amount of time, the ECW guys never gave up. I mean, the guys have stuck around, desperately trying to keep that company going, and it's just sad things turned out the way they did. I mean, yeah. So I think it was a decent year, but far from the best final year for ECW because of those reasons. Now, how many sets of questions do we have? We've got 5 sets of questions to go, so it's been a long video so far, so if you've been with me this whole time, congratulations, but let's keep going. Prince of Strong Style 9v2. Fully Loaded 2000 had a triple main event with newcomers Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho headlining. Jericho and Benoit got huge rubs, weren't no spots, but how would you have handled Angle on the pay-per-view? Face someone else over The Undertaker or book the match better? The second one, just book the match better, basically. I mean, obviously doing the match was fine. Undertaker, Kurt Angle, it's a great idea, but the match was booked awfully. Kurt Angle looked like an absolute chump during this match. Undertaker pretty much squashed him and made him look bad. So yeah, basically just book it as a more competitive match. I mean, Taker can still go over, that's absolutely fine. Take no problems with the Undertaker actually going over or anything like that, but at least make Kurt Angle look stronger in defeat. That's how you do it, really. Then we got name 5 pay-per-views to recommend to anyone unfamiliar to the WF in 2000. So I'll do it chronologically, in chronological order. So I'll say obviously the first one, Royal Rumble 2000. I love that show. It's fucking great memories for me growing up. I mean, you had an exciting debut of Taz debut in the feast, Kurt Angle. Great tables match between the Hardys and Edge and Chris, not Hardys and the Dudley Boys, sorry. Let's just discount the fact you saw Mae Young with prosthetic tits. Just ignore that bit. Let's just forget that part. Obviously Triple H and Cactus Jack street fights, Big Show Cell. And a great, not one of the best Royal Rumble matches, but a great Royal Rumble match. And then, I'll say the next pay-per-view, No Way Out. It did have its bad points, such as a Taz and Bossman match, Mark Henry Viscera, but some great matches as well, such as Kurt Angle, Chris Jericho, and a really good opener. A really underrated, well, we'll get to that in a minute, but a really good gem between the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian. The Radicals versus Too Cool and Rikishi. Obviously the Hell in a Cell main event between Triple H and Cactus Jack. Then obviously Backlash 2000. I explained that one earlier in the video, so no need to go over that one again. Then the following pay-per-view, Judgment Day, was a very, very good, maybe even a great pay-per-view actually. Only 6 matches on there, but 4 of them were very good. 1 was decent, 1 was nah. And so the stuff to check out was Kurt Angle, Edge and Christian versus Rikishi and Too Cool. Eddie Guerrero versus Dean Malenko versus Perry Saturn. A submission match between Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho. And of course the Iron Man match between Triple H and The Rock. And then the last one I'll pick is Fully Loaded. That was a really good pay-per-view. I mean, very enjoyable. I mean, you had the Hardys and Lita versus Tina and Trish. Good opener. Val Venis and Rikishi. That was a hell of a lot of fun cage match. Then of course the last 2 matches were awesome, of course. First, Triple H and Chris Jericho last man standing match, and then The Rock versus Chris Benoit in the main event. So if you want to watch 5 WWE pay-per-views from 2000, those are the ones. And out of the new talent in the poll that do from 2000, she's Jericho, Benoit and Angle. Who had the most successful year? It's got to be Kurt Angle, hasn't it really? I mean, look, Benoit, I said Jericho's a second and then maybe Benoit third. But Kurt Angle for me, I mean, look at his accomplishments that year. Won the European title, won the Intercontinental title, become the Eurocontinental champion. The first Eurocontinental champion in history, except for D'Lo Brown, but he doesn't count, if you remember that line. Obviously he went on to win King of the Ring, main event SummerSlam that year, won the title from The Rock at No Mercy, and then capped off the year by winning the 6-man Hell in a Cell match at Armageddon. So, gotta be Kurt Angle, really, hasn't it? Which WCW pay-per-view had the potential to be actually good, but had shitty booking, not got in the way? Who could have used the rub from working those shows? I mean, that's a bad fuck now. I suppose most of them, I'd say Spring Stampede could have been pretty good if it was booked better, because that was right at the time where they did their whole what's the word, reset of the company with Bischoff and fucking Russo being the heads of the company with the New Blood versus the Millionaire. So if they'd have gotten that show off to a great start, I'm not sure who could have worked. I mean, I suppose the likes of Booker T, Kidman, Vampiro and all that could have got rubs in that. Was Mike Awesome there in that one? I'm not sure if Mike Awesome was on that pay-per-view or not. I can't remember, but cause I think he debuted before this, I think. Not sure, I can't remember. If Mike Awesome was on it or not, he'd be another one. And then we got Hidden Gems and Classics from 2000. Well, yeah, so we'll start with the WWF. I mean, obviously, I'll say, remember the SmackDown, I think SmackDown January 6th, possibly, Triple H versus Rikishi for the WWF title. That was a really entertaining match. Hardys versus Edge and Christian from No Way Out. I mean, you talk about the TLC matches and all that stuff, but this was just a singles pay-per-view match between straight up tag team match between them on pay-per-view. Sorry, I'm talking shite here. I've been talking for nearly 2 hours, so I think my brain's not working properly. That was a really, really good match. On the same show, the Radicals versus Rikishi and Too Cool. That was a fun as shit match. Dean Malenko, Scotty 2 Hottie, obviously from Backlash 2000. Probably one of the best light heavyweight matches we've ever did. Pretty much the only time WWF let Dean Malenko show off his skills in the WWF in like a lengthy pay-per-view match. And that was definitely like Scotty 2 Hottie's best match ever, really. The Rock versus Triple H versus Shane McMahon, the main event of Insurrection 2000, the UK pay-per-view. That was a hell of a lot of fun. Really good main event. Obviously, Judgment Day, Rikishi and Too Cool versus Kurt Angle, Edge and Christian. King of the Ring, actually. Val Venis and Eddie Guerrero had a very underrated match. A very underrated match. Sticking with Val Venus, we got a fully loaded 2000. I really enjoyed the hell out of that cage match between Val Venus and Rikishi. Thought that was a fun as shit match, to be honest with you. Really enjoyed that one. Not much. The Raw on TNN, if you remember that. The first Raw on TNN, the Hardys and Edge and Christian had what I would consider a lesser known ladder match. I mean, here are all the No Mercy 1999 matches, all the pay-per-view matches of the Dudleys, but they had another match on Raw for the tag team titles in a ladder match, which, who knows, maybe I'll review that Raw in the near future. Just to tease you all there for that. Then obviously No Mercy 2000, Jericho and X-Pac had a very good cage match in my opinion. Pretty underrated match. So, can we find anything from WCW? I mean, in a terrible year? And my answer is, yes we can. But there's a few, but not a lot. Sting and Booker T at Spring Stampede. It was a short match, but I thought it was a lot of fun and pretty entertaining match overall. I really liked it. Mike Awesome and Canyon from it was Slamboree. I think it was Slamboree. That was a really good mid-card match. Booker T and Lance Storm for the world title on Nitro. And I think it was August, sometime in August 2000. Thought that was a hell of a lot of fun. The Filthy Animals Paul Orndorff match versus the Natural Born Thrillers at 4 Brawl 2000. That's worth checking out. And then, haven't seen a ton of ECW in 2000, but Mike Awesome, Spike Dudley from Guilty of Charge. That's a really fun big man, little man match. I feel like RVD, Jerry Lynn from Hardcore Heaven gets overlooked because of the epic 1999 matches. But this was a good match as well. Jerry Lynn, just incredible main event of Anarchy Rules. That was a good match. Tajiri and Steve Corino had a match. I can't remember what pay-per-view it was, but it was a good match. But yeah, so that's that. And then next week on to Tile Vert Street. Do you think they could have done a better job of the King of the Ring tournament? Oh God, yeah. I think they could have done a hell of a lot of better job of the tournament. And how about I do that for you then? So in the interest of fairness, let's use the same 8 guys and then see if we can make this better. So, how about we have Crash Holly go down to Chris Jericho in the first round. Then we have, how about we have, now this is going to be, I had to sacrifice, obviously I think everyone was thinking, do Jericho Angle Benoit Guerrero in the last 4, but I feel like Rikishi was probably so over that he deserved to be in the last 4. So we'll change it up. So Chris Benoit beats Eddie Guerrero in the first round to set up a semi-final with Chris Jericho. Then we have Kurt Angle defeat Val Venus, and then Rikishi beat Bull Buchanan. Then we can have Benoit Jericho in the semi-final with Jericho going over. Angle can then beat Rikishi in the semi-final to set up a final of Kurt Angle versus Chris Jericho, and have Kurt Angle win the King of the Ring that way. So how about that? Then we got your first reaction to see the Radicals debuting. That was pretty cool. I mean, I knew the Radicals I knew all 4 guys had left WCW, but didn't expect them to see them in the WF that quickly. So then there was a match on Raw. I can't even remember what the match was, to be honest with you, but there they are, 4 WCW, ex-WCW stars coming on the front row of Raw. I mean, stuff like that was cool watching this in the Monday Night War days. That was actually one of the most fun things about the Monday Night War thing. Seeing company jumpsuits. I mean, you see it now, you see obviously last year some New Japan guys going to the WWE, but it wasn't really the same. I mean, because it wasn't like direct competition like it is now. And you've seen it recently with TNA guys going to the WWE. It's not the same as when WWF and WCW guys would go back and forth between the 2 shows. So it was a really fun moment. That was really cool just to see them there. And it was interesting because early on the Monday Night Wars, it was WCW taking a lot of WWE guys such as Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. such as Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, such as Bret Hart and stuff like that. But I think later in the war it was the other way around. WWF was snapping up some of WCW's talent, and such as 1999 when they got the Big Show and Chris Jericho, and then here in 2000 they got the Four Radicals. So it was really cool. And it goes, thoughts on ECW Raw moving to TNN. I didn't really care, to be honest. I mean, it doesn't affect me. I don't really care about that. I mean, obviously me being in the UK, WWF's always been on Sky Sports, so it was on the same channel for me, so I didn't really give a shit. So I mean, if I was American and it affected me, I might have a better answer, but I wasn't really that bothered. And there we go. Were a lot of your friends huge wrestling fans at the time? Yeah, most of them anyway. I would say. I don't think they were like lunatic fucking obsessed with wrestling marks like me. But I think a lot of them were big fans. I'd say there were like 2 or 3 friends that were massive wrestling fans that we used to like share tapes and play the video games and stuff like that together. But yeah, so especially now I have hardly any friends who watch wrestling anymore. But yeah, I'd say most people at school at least liked wrestling, but I don't think they were like lunatic freak marks such as me. But anyway, so yeah, we're getting there, guys. We're getting there. We're nearly 2 hours in. We got 3 sets of questions left, so we're getting there. It's been a long video, but we're getting there. There we go. Jericholic 8704. I think it was a blessing in disguise that Austin missed the early portion of 2000, considering Return of Backlash was so great. Or do you think it would have been better if you'd been in the company set of WrestleMania? Obviously, in a perfect world, there'd be no injuries. Might you think it was I think it was a blessing in disguise to the whole company, as I kind of said earlier, but kind of explain it. So obviously, Austin was the big star in 98, 99, for most of 1997. So Austin being gone, shook the ref up quite a bit, actually. I mean, obviously, if Austin had stayed, he'd have probably main evented most pay-per-views in 2000. So then you had like The Rock and Triple H really carried the company. Then you had like new talents such as Benoit, Jericho, Angle, Rikishi, and people like that. So I do feel like it helped the WWF not have Austin for a while. It's forced them to be a bit more creative and create new stars. I mean, I think that's kind of the problem WWE's had in the past few years. I mean, they pushed Cena to the top, but nobody else really got that level. So when Cena wasn't around, he wasn't really that guy anymore. And like now they've only really pushed Roman Reigns. They put all the eggs in the Roman Reigns basket. So say if Roman Reigns was gone for a year, they'd be scrambling to create new stars, wouldn't they? Really? Where I think WWF did, what I thought was fantastic. Let's go back to 1999, 98 as an example. So they had Austin and The Undertaker on top. And then they had guys like Mankind, The Rock and Triple H. So instead of WWF just going, oh, let's just push The Rock and ignore the others, they pushed all 3. So you have more stars and you can do more stuff that way. There we go. Do you think it was a mistake that Jericho spent the majority of this year from the mid-card despite the huge reaction he got after beating Triple H and sarcastic in quotation marks for the title in April of 2000? Was Chris Jericho really stuck in the mid-card? I mean, is that really entirely true? I don't really think it is. So let's say after this, I mean, on paper it looks like the Benoit Jericho feud was a mid-card feud, but in reality, at Backlash and Judgment Day, those were the semi-main event. I mean, Rock and Triple H was the main event for those 2 shows, but the number 2 match on both of those shows was Benoit and Jericho. So kind of harsh to consider that a mid-card feud. And then obviously you had the feud of Triple H in a Fully Loaded. That wasn't really mid-card stuff. I think the only time I would say he definitely was when he was feuding with X-Pac in September and October of 2000. And then he rounded off the year in the feud of Kane, which, yeah, you could say it's a mid-card feud, but Armageddon 2000, that was definitely the semi-main event of the show. I think obviously the roster was stacked at the time as well, so as hot as Chris Jericho was he hot a babyface than The Rock? Not really. That's not dissing Chris Jericho, it's just he wasn't as hot as The Rock. And then Undertaker came back, was he as big a star as The Undertaker? I don't think so. Then of course Austin came back September 2000. So it's just a case of Jericho not being as hot as those guys. I feel anyway. But he was always featured in storylines. He always got mic time. He always got time to have good pay-per-view matches and stuff like that. So I don't think Chris Jericho was stuck in the mid card per se. Then we got. Do you in any way agree with Vince Russo's idea of getting mainstream coverage for his wrestling company by putting the WWE World Title on David Arquette? Nope. And that's Russo's. Yo, bro. They were on the cover of New York Today, bro. We got mainstream coverage, bro. I'm Vince Russo, bro. No. Yeah, you got mainstream coverage, but you fucking ruined the credibility of your world title. You disrespected everything the world title stood for. You fucking stupid prick. Ugh, that's what pisses me off about Vince Russo. Like, I've seen other guys who admit they did some bad stuff, but Russo never admit they did anything wrong. It's always someone fucking else's fault. Oh, standards and practices, bro. Or this and that. You can't just... He actually, to this day, he actually thinks putting the title on David Arquette was a good idea. He's actually that deluded that 17 years later he will not admit that it was a mistake. God. Sorry about that. Sorry to just end your questions on a somber note, but there we go. And then we got Mr. Beatle 890 and fought on WF post SummerSlam. Yeah, I think this is when, obviously, I think the WWE went on a noticeable decline after that. Don't get me wrong, the product was still good, very good in fact, but the hottest period was definitely January to SummerSlam, and then after that, I feel like, I'm pretty sure this is around the time that Kreski was leaving and Stephanie McMahon was becoming the head of the creative team, and I think this is about the time that we started getting a load of writers and stuff like that, but I feel like, I think Unforgiven and like No Mercy and that weren't particularly good pay-per-views. Like, obviously this was the time they fucked up two major storylines in my opinion, and I feel like that was one of the big reasons for a decline. Obviously, they fucked up the Triple H Kurt Angle storyline, and they fucked up the Who Ran Over Austin storyline, and then I don't think Survivor Series was particularly good show at all. Armageddon was pretty much a two-match show, because I think the Jericho Kane match was good, well, the Hell in a Cell. So yeah, I feel like it wasn't as good as it had been. Then we got a forced on Right to Censor. I enjoyed Right to Censor. Thought it was a good faction, I really do. I mean, it actually made so much sense at the time, but people might not realise this was actually a parody. So this was at a time where WWF was Attitude, TV14, stuff like that, and then there was a group of people called the Parents Television Council who were trying to actively censor the WWF. They were trying to encourage sponsors to pull out the WWF. Basically, the WWF was getting massively criticised for its edgy and questionable content by the Parents Television Council, and they were just being fucking miserable bastards, to be honest. So what the WWF did is created Right to Censor. I mean, look at the initials: Parents Television Council, PTC. Then you got Right to Censor, RTC. So it was a parody. So Stephen Richards was he came back as a censor guy. That he was going to start censoring the WWF for your own good and all that. He's just doing this for the benefit of your children and all that. Then obviously this became a faction. I think Bull Buchanan joined him. He convinced the Godfather to get out the pimping business and join Right to Censor as the Good Father. Then you got another porn star, Val Venus, turned him into a Right to Censor guy. They even got a chick as well, Ivory, joined the Right to Censor. So it got some great heat. I mean, it was a great mid-card faction, and I liked it anyway, despite the music, which if you can actually call it music, was just an annoying siren going on and off for like however long it took them to get to the ring. But I enjoyed the Right to Censor, I really did. Thoughts on The Undertaker that year, I mean, not a fan of the American Badass switch. I mean, I like it better now, like years later, but I was not a fan of the switch at the time. But also I felt The Undertaker, I think the injuries were starting to hurt him. I mean, he came back, but he wasn't in great shape, I don't think. Wasn't really having many good matches. It's ironic, I think. People in like 2000 were thinking about The Undertaker and thinking, he hasn't got too long left to go, 2 or 3 years maybe, and then he ended up wrestling for another 17 years after that. But yeah, I mean, obviously the stuff with Kurt Angle is fully loaded. Obviously, there's some of the feud is actually entertaining, like Kurt Angle being running away from The Undertaker, shit like that, and then, but the match wasn't good. I think like the going back to a feud with Kane in 2000, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? So yeah, and I think like 2001 was another pretty bad year for him as well. I don't think he really got back on form until 2002. That's when he got back into better shape and started having more good matches again. And what have we got? Most underrated WWE pay-per-view of that year. Yeah, probably Fully Loaded, I would say. That was overall, I thought that was a damn good pay-per-view overall, but I think like Backlash and stuff like that, Judgment Day gets the attention, Royal Rumble. But this has got to rank right up there. I mean, you had Benoit and Rock, Triple H and Jericho, Val Venis and Rikishi, Hardy's and Lita versus Tina and Trish Stratus. So yeah, I'll probably go for Fully Loaded for that one. It goes best Intercontinental Champion that year. I go with Chris Benoit actually. I mean, I think if I remember right, the champions were Jericho, Angle, Benoit, Rikishi for a bit, Val Venis, Chyna, Eddie Guerrero, and Billy Gunn. But I'll say I actually like Chris Benoit's Intercontinental title run. I think because I grew up when I was watching wrestling, like Bret Hart was the Intercontinental Champion, like a good wrestler. Then Shawn Michaels was the Intercontinental Champion, and Razor Ramon, like good wrestlers with the Intercontinental Champion. So I feel like Chris Benoit just brought some credibility to the belt. I mean, he was a good champion. He had good matches, good title defenses. So I actually enjoyed Benoit's Intercontinental title run. I think that was a great spot for him early in his WWF run as well. I feel like helped him out being given that push so early in his career. Then right, we're 2 hours and 6 minutes into the video, and we're on to the final set of questions, and they come from Michael Shepherdson. Yep, so if you got this far, awesome. We're nearly there. We're at the 2 hours and 6 minutes then. Best part of WCW? Well, there's not many, but I can name some. I mean, I feel like Booker T and Scott Steiner becoming main eventers. In particular, Booker T title win at Bash at the Beach. Thought they made the best of a bad situation. Yeah, I like Positively Canyon gimmick. That Canyon's parody of DDP. That was actually quite fun. Lance Storm coming in, getting a big push right off the bat, becoming a triple champion. He had the US title, the Cruiserweight, and the Hardcore, which he all renamed. Obviously, the Canadian title. I can't remember the names of the other titles, but that was pretty good stuff. I would say 3 Count the Young Dragons had good little mid-card matches. Those are actually some of the guys who are actually still actively trying to have good matches and stuff like that. So Fall Brawl was a good, obviously Goldberg and Steiner, that match was really good. That was a great match actually. You definitely check out that Goldberg Steiner match. So yeah, there's few and far between, but there are some good points. How popular was wrestling back then? Whew. Probably, yeah, I'll say 99, 2000. It was probably the most popular years I've ever experienced as a wrestling fan. I mean, I think most people at least knew what WWF was. Like, everyone knew The Rock, everyone knew Stone Cold. Most people were at least casually watching it. I mean, it's one of those times where you don't have to like hide the fact you're wrestling. Cause I'm sure we've all experienced it where we don't actively go out telling people we're wrestling fans because we'll get wrestling. That's all fake, that shit, isn't it? You know, I'm sure you've all experienced that. People just laughing at you for being a wrestling fan and all that. Where you're like with your buddies and you're like, hey, dude, did you see what happened on the wrestling the other night? Whereas now you could walk in and just openly talk about wrestling. It was really cool, so hugely popular. Top 5 wrestlers, so top 5 wrestlers of the year. So I'll do this in reverse order. So I'll say number 5, Chris Benoit. thought he had obviously great in-ring year. And he's the WCW champion. Then he went to the WWF. Had Intercontinental title reigns. Great match with Jericho. Great match with The Rock. Great match with Triple H. I mean, he even had actually, we'll go. When I was talking about underrated gems, I forgot a really big one. The Raw night after Survivor Series 2000, Benoit and Austin had an excellent wrestler match. I mean, you think of the 2001 match, but this was a great match as well. So yeah, then number 4, we got Chris Jericho. I mean, awesome mic skills, great in-ring skills, very popular. I'm pretty sure he sold a lot of merchandise and all that type of shit. So great Intercontinental title reign, good mic wars with Stephanie, great feud with Benoit, good matches with Triple H. So actually some of the X-Pac matches were actually pretty good. Then feud with Kane, then obviously number 3, Kurt Angle, for what he did his first year in the company. Improved at such a rate it wasn't even funny, to be honest with you. Pardon me, just got a little burp there. Obviously, they've been Eurocontinental champion, King of the Ring, main event of SummerSlam, being the WWF champion. Then number 2, The Rock. I mean, obviously we all know 1 and 2 are Triple H and The Rock, but for me, say Triple H. Obviously, I'd say The Rock was the more popular and the top guy, but Triple H was a better all-round performer in my opinion. I mean, obviously The Rock, my skills would even compare. Triple H is here, The Rock's up here. So I'll say Rock 2 and Triple H 1. Then top 5 worst WWF pay-per-views. I'm not including WWF Hit of the Whole as well. I'm going to ask for permission to cheat here and include the UK pay-per-views as well. So, in fact, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to cheat and include the UK pay-per-view. So, I'll say worst pay-per-views, King of the Ring 2000. As I've explained earlier, that was just not a good show at all. And I'll say Survivor Series 2000 was a fairly poor show. I mean, not a good show at all. I mean, didn't like the Austin Triple H main event. Thought that was a fairly poor main event. Couple of good matches like The Rock and Rikishi, Kurt Angle and The Undertaker, but fairly crappy mid card, to be honest with you. Then I'll say third worst, Armageddon. Obviously, a lot of the undercard was bad. Great main event, good last man standing match, but not much else. Then I would say Rebellion 2000, the UK pay-per-view. This was actually, some of this was a decent show, but not that great. I mean, you had a main event of Angle, Austin, Rock and Rikishi, I think. Benoit and The Undertaker had a match, but the rest was just not great. And then we've got one more, got to go WrestleMania 2000, unfortunately. Not this was a bad show, it was actually a decent show, but disappointing for a WrestleMania. We had a great triangle ladder match, very good triple threat match between Angle, Benoit and Jericho. And then the main event was actually good, it just wasn't great. And then we got top 5 best pay-per-views. So, obviously, as I previously stated, Backlash number 1. Number 2, I would say Judgment Day. I mean, that's 2 fantastic pay-per-views in a row, that actually, Backlash and Judgment Day. Number 3, Royal Rumble 2000, awesome show. Number 4, Fully Loaded 2000. I'll give number 5 to No Way Out 2000. So, there we go. Question on the Q&A. Top 5 moments. So, let's have a think. See what I can come up with. So, number 5, although I didn't like the American Badass gimmick, I would say the end of that match at Judgment Day where it was all chaos with the McMahon-Helmsley faction. And then the Undertaker comes out on the motorcycle, makes his big return, and starts just beating up people and chokeslamming people right and left. That was pretty cool. And then we got, what else do we have? Chris Jericho, quote unquote, winning the WWF Championship on Raw in April 2000. That was a fantastic moment, really good stuff. Now, 2 and 3 kind of tie in together, but so number 3, the SmackDown before Backlash 2000, where they were teasing Stone Cold returning all night. And then last segment of the show, Austin was on the Titantron and then talking about the McMahon-Helmsley faction, and then he blew up the DX Express truck, and that kind of ties into number 2. Just the whole thing, Rock and Triple H Backlash 2000, all the crazy interference. Stone Cold comes back to even up the odds, and then The Rock goes on to beat Triple H to win the WWF Championship after months of being screwed and all that. And then number one, and then this is one of my favourite wrestling moments of all time, actually. So it was on SmackDown. It was because obviously the match for Royal Rumble 2000 was being made, Triple H and Mankind for the WWF title street fight, and then obviously the previous Raw, Triple H had really beaten up Mankind, bloodied him up, all that good stuff, and then Mankind came out and declared that there's one thing Mankind was not, and that was ready to face Triple H in a street fight at the Royal Rumble. And then Triple H is like all smug, and then Mankind says, but I think fans deserve a substitute in that match. And then they played this moment beautifully. So Mick Foley first, he takes the mask off, then he removes his tie, and then unbuttons his shirt to reveal his Cactus Jack shirt. So that moment where Mankind morphed back into Cactus Jack, and Triple H's reaction of, oh shit, what the fuck have I done? That helped make the moment, because if Triple H just laughed at that, the moment would have been dead. But the fact that Triple H sold that moment, like, oh my fucking god, what the hell have I done? Then, like Cactus Jack came back, and then obviously he went and kicked Triple H's ass. So yeah, that's 2016 minutes now. So that's it, guys. So thanks for the questions. Some good questions, this one. Channel update, just a little quick one. Obviously, as you saw, match retrospectives are coming back. The SummerSlam polls out there, so if you check out my last video, there's links in that description box. That'll be coming out within a couple of weeks. Monday morning, Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view review. The old slide reviews that I do, all that sort of thing. And obviously, I've got an idea for the next Q&A, but it doesn't involve years, so I'm not going to reveal what it is. But that announcement will come. So when that comes, obviously send more questions in and that. So, and once again, thanks for watching, and I'm out for now, guys, and peace.